Welcome to this video on IELTS Speaking Connectors. Mastering linking phrases is a great way to improve your fluency and sound more natural. Let's explore 20 essential phrases you can use in parts 1, 2, and 3 of the test. First is the word well. This is a common filler used at the start of an answer to give yourself a moment to think. For example, you might say, well, I think social media has both positive and negative effects. Next, use to be honest when you want to share a candid or personal opinion. It helps introduce a frank perspective, such as, to be honest, I don't really enjoy watching sports on TV. When you are not 100% sure about a fact but want to share what you know, use the phrase, as far as I know. You could say, as far as I know, the museum is open every day except Monday. Use I suppose when you are providing a tentative opinion, especially during part 3. It indicates slight uncertainty or a mild view, for instance. I suppose living in a big city has more advantages than disadvantages. When you want to add a stronger point after your initial statement, use what's more. It is perfect for providing additional supporting information, like, it's cheaper to cook at home. What's more, it's healthier. The phrase come to think of it is useful when you suddenly remember or realize something mid-speech. For example, you might add, come to think of it, I haven't been to the cinema in months. In part 3, you often need to show balanced thinking. Use, on the other hand, to introduce a contrasting or opposing point, such as, cities offer more jobs. On the other hand, the cost of living is higher. When you need to explain why something happens, use the phrase, the reason is. It clearly introduces an explanation or a cause for your point, like, I prefer reading books. The reason is that books are more detailed than films. To support your arguments with evidence, use, for instance. It introduces a specific example to illustrate your point, such as, many people work from home now. For instance, my sister is a remote designer. Finally, use having said that to introduce a qualification or exception to what you just mentioned. It is a great way to show balance after making a strong point, like, summer is my favorite season. Having said that, I also love the snow in winter. Next is, all in all. Use this phrase at the end of your answer to summarize your overall opinion or conclusion, just like in this example. All in all, I think technology has improved our lives significantly. When you need to transition to a new topic or point, try saying, moving on to. This is particularly useful in part 2 to organize your long-term talk. For instance, moving on to why this person is important, I would say she taught me patience. To introduce a personal viewpoint, use the phrase, personally, I. This signals to the examiner that you are sharing your own opinion. For example, personally, I believe that learning a second language is essential. If you are in part 3 and are not sure about an exact answer, try, I'm not sure, but. This shows uncertainty while still allowing you to attempt an answer. An example is, I'm not sure, but I think the population is around 10 million. Use, that's true, but when you want to agree partially before introducing a counterpoint. It is a great way to acknowledge a point before you disagree. For example, that's true, but I think the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. To extend your answer with more information, you can use, another thing is. This connector helps you add an additional point to your answer, such as, another thing is that public transport reduces traffic congestion. If you find yourself running out of time or ideas at the end of a part 2 response, you can say, if I had more time. For example, if I had more time, I would also talk about his achievements. When you want to reflect more deeply on a topic during part 3, use, now that I think about it. This helps you develop a more thoughtful response, like, now that I think about it, my childhood shaped who I am today. To rephrase or clarify what you just said, try, in other words. Use this connector when you want to explain something in a simpler way, like, in other words, we need to protect the environment for future generations. Finally, when you want to give a concluding thought after considering everything in a complex part 3 answer, use, at the end of the day. For example, at the end of the day, it's about finding the right balance. You did it. You have mastered 20 IELTS speaking connectors. Keep learning with Simply IELTS and subscribe for more tips to help you succeed.